This is the Age of Jeremy, episode 2, and this podcast was recorded on a Friday, October 27th, 2017. Hello, everyone. I wanted to start by thanking you for listening to the first episode. I know that I rambled a bit, but fuck it. I do it this episode too. It is what it is. Before we get started with this episode's podcast reviews, stop what you're doing and go follow me on Instagram at Age of Jeremy, follow our Facebook page, Age of Jeremy, and join the Age of Radio Facebook group, Radioheads. Let's get this show on the road.
We were kids growing up on the same block where we had stolen liquor by the bus stop. Took a while, now you're
All right, let's kick off this award show. The polls are up on Age of Radiohead's Facebook group. And how you're going to do that is you're going to go to the Age of Radio on Facebook and click groups and then join the Age of Radioheads, which you should already be a member of the group if you did what I told you to do in the intro to this episode. But when you're a member of the group, it's absolutely public. Anybody can join. There's going to be a poll there for you to vote. And what you're going to be voting for are the November shows that I'm going to be highlighting on the Age of Jeremy podcast. And whichever podcast show, gets the most votes, we are going to send them an award, an Age of Radio award for winning the November Podcast of the Month award. And so the shows that we're going to be focusing on are Uncivil, Coffee with Butterscotch, School of Podcasting, and Star Talk. So those are the 4 shows that are up for polling this month on the Age of Radiohead's Facebook group. And every episode of Age of Jeremy, since it comes out bi-weekly or twice a month, I'm going to be playing you a clip of one of the podcasts, and then I'm just going to kind of tell you why I like it. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with Uncivil. Uncivil is a Gimlet production. Gimlet's a podcasting network, kind of like Age of Radio, but a more well-known podcasting network than Age of Radio is right now. And what Uncivil does is it's a history podcast that looks at the divisions of our country that turned into the Civil War. And it focuses on stories that were left out of the official history that we're taught about the Civil War. So the Civil War that we're taught in grade school or in middle school or high school, this is going to kind of dispel some of the myths and see some of the lies that we've been told throughout our lives about the Civil War. And so the clip that I'm going to play you right now, it's from one of their episodes called The Takedown. And what the Takedown episode is about is the hosts of the show. They sit down with Nicole Hannah-Jones of the New York Times Magazine, Al Letson of Reveal, and Christy Coleman of the American Civil War Museum to talk about how they take down Civil War myths.
So what's the Civil War myth that you see out there that bothers you the most?
I would say some of the biggest myths that I hear on Twitter is one, that the North was not implicated in slavery. Mm-hmm. That somehow if your ancestors lived in the North, you have clean hands, which we know that, the economic driver of this country, the reason we become a superpower is because of slave labor. Mostly cotton, which of course is how we get an industrial revolution, because you have that cotton being produced, which then goes into the factories in the North. But every industry, insurance industry, right? Shipbuilding, banking, you can just go down the line of every part of our country is implicated in slavery, but what I hear on Twitter all the time is, my family wasn't in the South, we never owned slaves, so therefore we have nothing to do with slavery. Right. And in fact, we fought to free you. Right, which is also the thing that you hear. One, knowing that most people in the Civil War fighting for the North were not fighting to end slavery.
That's right.
They're fighting to preserve the Union, which is not the same thing. And had we been able to preserve the Union while preserving slavery, we would have done that. It ended up being a political tactic.
Lincoln said it. Yeah,
yes, of course, right? I mean, the Emancipation Proclamation only frees those who are enslaved in places that have left the Union.
That's right.
If you were a slaveholding state that remained in the Union, you could keep your slaves. So I think that myth is probably one of the most pernicious. And then also the myth
Great show. And it's hosted by a gentleman named Jack Hitt and another gentleman named Kinjurai Kumanika. And I'm probably saying that wrong, so I apologize. But this is a great show. And it's a terrible injustice, I think, what we've done to our fellow men and women based on the color of their skin, their religion, their sexual orientation. And I think that a show like this is really important for all of us to listen to because it really helps us understand the world as it really is. And if we understand the world as it really is, I think that that's when we can truly make it better because we really know where we come from, we know what's going on, and then that way we can make it a better place. But on with the show, I'm going to play you a
weird
clip
combo,
right
right?
now
Yeah.
from
'Cause
Coffee
Hansom's, like,
with
sort of the male-
Butterscotch.
Yeah, like it
man.
started off really good, and then
the
it
boy, I'm like, maybe this is where I'm at in life, you know?
She's like, look at that young thing over there.
Scotch.
All right, next question comes from Rampandapus, who says, I've been reading Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. Great book.
Good book.
Crunch time comes up a lot. In fact,
I
it
think
comes
that's
up
what
in-
it's about.
It comes up in every single chapter.
Yep.
What's the studio's stance? How much did the three of you crunch leading up to the Crashlands launch?
Well, this is interesting. So this whole idea, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it because the crunch that these people describe is so immense in both, scale, like day scale, like it's just the whole day, and they start sleeping at the office and stuff, and then also
Sometimes they rent apartments closer to the office that for super cheap, just so they can
Although, to
cut
be
down
fair,
their commutes.
they mostly are in San Francisco, which they probably should already be doing that anyway.
right.
Yeah.
So then,
But I mean, they also keep their original apartments.
yeah. But then there's also the duration where they're like, yeah, we crunched for 6 months,
Yeah.
and I'm just because I think the most we
I don't
ever
think
did,
that's crunch. I think that's just working a lot.
yeah, the most we ever did was I think it was the 3 days around beta, if I
Yeah.
recall.
We did 16 hours a day for 3 days.
Yeah. And then we were like, fuck this.
Well, we did it because we were very specifically in emergency mode responding to the most crucial game breaking bugs in the beta so that the beta could keep going. Right.
Mhm.
And so this wasn't pre-production. This wasn't like leading up to the launch. This was directly, the game was in players' hands.
It was basically a launch.
Yeah. And the game was in players' hands and they couldn't really give us the feedback we needed because of the state of the game.
And
So
we
had
needed
to fix
ASAP
it.
because we did have a launch date.
Yeah, we had to fix it immediately.
Yep.
So we did. So we did 3 days of crunch, and then we took a couple days off, and then we resumed back to a normal kind of schedule.
So because we usually work between like 40 and 60 hours a week, depending on kind of what's going on. I think just on average. But it's always under I guess there's very few times where we've been like, we need to just destroy ourselves right now in order to accomplish something.
Yeah.
Because usually it doesn't actually work.
We only do it at like true personal cost for like an evening at a time.
Right.
And even then, like that almost never happens because it's usually just like it would just.
This was
Or something
actually
where
my
we would just
favorite
think,
podcast
way
before
better if this
Uncivil
was
came
taken
out.
care of right now.
Brothers Seth, Sam, and Adam Coster own and operate Butterscotch Shenanigans. Well, and Butterscotch Shenanigans, it's a game development company. They make mobile app games. Their portfolio includes Crashlands, Quadrupus, Rampage, Tower Flight 2, Flop Rocket, Roid Rage, and coming soon, Scuffle Buddies. Their podcast is really focused on game development and the trials and tribulations of running and growing a game development podcast. I highly recommend that you check out Coffee with Butterscotch wherever you get your podcasts. And again, make sure you vote at the Age of Radiohead's Facebook group on your favorite podcast that I review on Age of Jeremy. And again, whoever wins will get an award sent to them for winning that month's Age of Radio Awards. All right, this is where we talk a little bit about social media and some of the things that I'm learning as I grow my following base. I've always had a problem with going back and forth with social media, mainly because I never made the time for it. The other problem was I didn't really know which product I should focus on. Should I do Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, musical.ly, LinkedIn? I just didn't know. So this was always what caused a problem for me, which I feel the best place to start is just to kind of pick one and focus on that until you get really good. The great thing about the social media platforms that we have today is they can all be used in a different way to engage with your following, whether you're an individual, whether you're trying to create a personal brand, or whether trying to create a business brand. They all have something that you can offer in a different way. But I think that when you're starting out, it's good to just stick with one of them and get really good at that one thing. So the one that I chose because it was a really big focal point for JV Impacts. So I went ahead and chose Instagram because that's what we were working on with JV Impacts. With the Instagram, I also like it because it's kind of like a blog, but just with pictures. And I find that exciting because you can do so much with pictures to tell a story. And then how you design your feed layout in Instagram helps you tell that story as well, which we can talk about maybe on a different podcast or a different episode, but not on this one. Because what I want to do is I want to give you 5 tips that I'm using that I think are a really great place to start when you're trying to really grow your Instagram. Because when I started this, I think I had like 20 followers on Instagram. Now I'm at 626, and it's been about 5 weeks. So this is doing pretty well. And these are strategies that we started working with JV Impacts that I just kind of started to work with the Age of Jeremy Instagram feed. So number 1 is that you have to have consistency. So if you're going to post twice a day, you're going to post at 10 and 2, then every single day at 10 and 2, you need to make sure that you're posting. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you really want to find a niche or a niche or a niche. I don't really know how to say the word, but find your niche. So what I mean by that is that you need to find something that you're going to focus on. So for like, we'll use JV Impacts for example. So John focuses on a picture of him working out, him with his family, and he does that in between doing posts of motivational sayings because JV Impacts is all about motivation, health, and life. So when he's posting on those things, he does an inspirational quote. He'll do a picture. He'll do an inspirational quote. He'll do a picture, and they all fall in that motivation, health, and life. Now, Age of Jeremy is a little different because it's really me sharing everything that's going on in my life. But as far as what I post, they usually have the same topics. So I'll post something about Buddhism in the mornings, which I call Daily Dose of Buddha. And then I'll post something around 1 o'clock that is an educational post for October. It's the Great Women of Science. And I don't know if I'm going to continue this into November, but I wanted to try it out because I really want to really give an emphasis on the great things that women have done in science. And then in the afternoons, I'll post something about my puppies. I have a Maltipoo named Kylo and a Havanese named Bane. So I'll post something that they do. And with that post, I'll usually do something with musical.ly to incorporate a video and music, but I'll post it through Instagram. And then I will also do a post in the towards 9 o'clock about, I call it Media Mogul, and it's about the things that I'm doing to build my empire, kind of a picture version of some of the stuff that I'm talking about on this podcast. And so that's kind of my niche, but it could be a lot better, to be honest, because that's kind of broad. So you really want to find a niche that you can really, really focus on. So first thing is consistency. Second thing is niche. Then what you want to do is you want to really focus on blocking out time. And this encompasses 2 things. You can block out time so you make sure that you do your posts. So for instance, I try to post at 9, 1, 6, and then 9 again. So 4 posts throughout the day. And in those posts, right before, I try to block out time on my calendar to say, okay, I'm going to build this post right now. And there's lots of things that exist where you could create the post and then it'll post it for you. But I just block out that time and I make it and then I post it. I guess there's a Hootsuite that can help with that. I think that they do Instagram. I'm not 100% on that, and because I'm kind of learning. And then I know that I have Iconosquare, which allows me to create the post, and then it'll remind me to post. But like I said, I just do that post at that time, and I block out time right before it. Then the second thing about blocking out time is you really want to block out time to engage with your audience, and then try to engage with other people's audiences, which leads me to the 4th tip, which is about engagement. So you block out time to engage. And what I mean by that is making sure that you're going through your feed, interacting with the people that you're following. And then you also want to go and look for things that might fit into your category. So I'll go to the search function on Instagram, and I'll go ahead and put in, say, a hashtag podcast, and then I'll go through some of those people's feeds and I'll just like their stuff and I'll comment on stuff. And what that does is it gives your presence out there, and more people are more likely to come across your feed, and then they'll be like, oh, I want to follow this person, and then they'll follow. So you want to make sure that you do that. I try to like about 100 posts a day. I know John is doing around like 200 posts a day that he'll do likes for, but I do about 100, and it gets me around 6 followers from it. And then what happens is, with those followers is I follow back, which is my 5th tip. Especially when you're getting started, I follow back with everybody. I know that there's some other people that may not agree with that. And I think at some point you need to not follow everybody that's following you. But when you're just getting going, I think it works really well, because I'll follow you if you follow me, and then you engage with those people. And then at some point you can start unfollowing people to clean up the amount of people that you're following. So those 5 tips, again, they're consistency, make sure that you're finding a niche, blocking out time, focusing on engagement, and then following everyone that follows you, at least in the beginning. All right, now let's move over to BizDev, which stands for business development. And I don't know if I'm going to keep calling it BizDev, but I'm going to call it BizDev right now because that's what I thought of. And I want to talk a little bit about 2 things that I've been working on. One, is I'm building Age of Radio Network. I'm trying to get more involved with the ad piece of it, or selling ad inventory, and how we're going to get our hosts really up to date with ads. And then I just want to talk about a great meeting I had with a young man that really inspired me. And hopefully we're going to be seeing a podcast of his here soon, but I kind of wanted to talk about that. But the first thing is, with the ad inventory piece, one of the great things about having a podcast network, or just a network in general, is that you are able to share or advertise the other individuals that are on your network. So for instance, on the Age of Jeremy show, I could advertise JV Impacts at the beginning of it if it was a new show that we were going to be bringing out. So for instance, I could be like, hey, you know what? Dropping next Tuesday is JV Impacts. It's a great new podcast. It's about motivation, health, and life. You make sure you need to check it out. It's on the Age of Radio Network. Something along those lines. And that's one of the great things about being on a podcast network. The other great things about being on a podcast network is that you have a larger audience on which to sell ads to. So for instance, if I have, say, 1,000 listens an episode, I have technically a 1 CPM. We don't really need to get into CPM, but it stands for cost per thousand. So if I had a 1,000 listeners, but then John has 40,000 listeners or 50,000 listeners, then if I could feed off of those listeners, I could bring them over to my podcast, and then we could be sharing advertising between the same group of listeners, but advertising different stuff. So for instance, if I was able to get the 50,000 listeners that John had and add them to my 1,000, then I would have about 60,000 listens, and John would also have 60,000 listens. But we wouldn't be advertising the same type of products on each of those podcasts. We would be advertising, I know John's a big advocate for On It nutrition. So John could be doing an advertisement role for On It, and Age of Jeremy, let's say it's about business development. So Entreport's an online marketing tool that we use for JV Impacts. Let's say they wanted for us to advertise them. That would be something that Age of Jeremy could do. But now, even though I'm advertising to the same group of people, I'm advertising on different podcasts, but I can get the revenue from each of those 60 people twice for each advertisement. So if I make let's say I make $20,000, it's not going to be, that's just an arbitrary number, $20,000 off of the JV Impacts advertisement. I could also make $20,000 off of the On It advertisement because of the people listening to Age of Radio. So to do that, we need to get really good at, or I need to get really good at, or Age of Radio needs to get really good at selling advertisements. And there is a company that I'm looking at to an agency to bring in to work with Age of Radio to help us find people to advertise with. But prior to that, I've been doing a lot of research on other podcast networks. And one of the great things that Podcast One does, which is a podcast network, is that they have an affiliates page. So affiliate marketing is something that you can do for free. We'll use Amazon because that's what led me to the debacle that I want to talk about. So I signed up Age of Jeremy for Amazon affiliates. So how Amazon affiliates work is that you get specific links that you can put into your web page, and then through your advertisement, you can lead people to your webpage. They can click on that link. And since they're clicking on that link through your webpage, they're going to get a special promotion. So for example, we'll say Audible, because that's the one that I was going to try to do this week on the podcast, but I couldn't because of the debacle that I'm going to talk about. So I signed up for Amazon affiliates. I'm a big advocate for learning and book reading. So I saw Audible because you can listen to books, which is great. And I was going to put that on the Age of Jeremy website, which is, if you know, there isn't an Age of Jeremy website yet because it was supposed to be done by the time this podcast came out, and it couldn't because of the debacle that I went through with HostGator, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but I want to lead up to it. So I went to Amazon affiliates. I signed up. I was really excited because I was going to try to test my advertising skills and try to lead people to ageofjeremy.com to get 2 free books when they sign up for Audible through our affiliate link. Now, what Podcast One does is they have a whole page where all of the people that they have on their network, if they have affiliates through Amazon affiliates, they'll have a page where you can go to your favorite show and it'll list all of their promotional products through Amazon affiliates. And it doesn't necessarily have to be Amazon products. When you sign up for it, there's a whole list of products you can select and you get like a special code. So like, let's say one of the products was Bounty, and I would have a special code, and I could say, hey, Age of Jeremy listeners or Age of Jeremy radio heads, go to bounty.com or go to Amazon on bounty.com. Go to Amazon, buy Bounty, put in this promo code 9745, and you get like 10% off of your purchase. So that's kind of how that type of affiliate works. As I start doing it, I'll be able to explain it better, but I really wanted to try this out on this podcast or on this episode. And so I went to Amazon affiliates and I figured it all out. I got everything set up. I read through everything. I looked through everything. I was like, cool, now I just need a website. So I was like, okay, so am I going to go with GoDaddy, which is what we use for JV Impacts? Or do I want to try a different company to see what else is out there? And so I'm a consumer and I get excited about marketing and brands and the brand colors and all the stuff that has to do with advertising. I enjoy that type of stuff. And so I really liked HostGator because of the blue gator. So there's like this blue gator that is their logo. And then everything on the website is based around a swamp. So like even at the bottom of the webpage, there's like the swamp, and it's just fun. And then the names of their packages are Hatchling and Baby. And I don't know what else there is because I got the baby package. So I got the baby package. It's $11.95 a month for the hosting. And then through the hosting, I went ahead and bought the ageofjeremy.com domain so I could do it. Well, since I'm just learning how to do HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and PHP, and for some stupid fucking reason, I'm trying to do them all at the same time. So that's not a good idea. But since I'm learning how to do those, and I built the JV Impacts website with WordPress, I went ahead and it was going to install WordPress or get it set up to use through the HostGator website that I had signed up for. So I went and I filled everything out. Well, as soon as I filled it out, I got this notification that the name servers weren't right on the domain for Age of Jeremy. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know enough about this, so let me go ahead and contact the help support. So I contacted the HostGator help, and I talked to this nice guy. He told me that everything was fine, and that I would need to just get the name servers changed. And I said, well, how I know where to go do that, but what do I put them to? I didn't understand how that part worked. And he said, I'll take care of it. So he comes back and he says, okay, so you have to go through a period of time where the servers update throughout the internet. And I forgot what it was called, but it takes 24 to 48 hours. I waited 24 hours and I went back on and tried to log into the WordPress admin, and it gave me the same error. So I called back to, or I chatted back to HostGator through their 24-hour chat service. And the person that was helping me this time went and checked, and they said that nothing was changed on the name servers. And I was like, okay. So I was kind of pissed off. I get mad very easily, but then I get calmed down really quick. So I got pissed off and then I calmed down. But I asked them, okay, well, can you change it? And is it possible that I can start working on this right away? Because I wanted to build at least a landing page for ageofjeremy.com so that I could try out the affiliate link. So I could try out how advertising would sound in some fashion through the podcast. And so they said, well, no, it still has to go through the 24 to 48 hour session where it uploads or changes, where the name servers change. And I wouldn't be able to do anything until that was done. So that part was what kind of frustrated me, because I had already waited one day. Now I had to wait another 24 hours or 48 hours. So another 24 hours went by and it still didn't work. So I called back to the tech support, I chatted back to the tech support. And when I got a hold of someone, I asked them to check. They said it all had been updated and that it was good. It would just take that up to that 48 hours. So then about lunchtime the following day, and I work from 6 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. So lunchtime's like around 11. So at 11, I checked and it let me log in through the admin. And that was on, I think Thursday. So yesterday. And so when I got home, I needed to do some editing for JV, and I haven't really even touched the ageofjeremy.com landing page because I've been waiting for the name servers to update. So that was the one thing that was really frustrating, because I really wanted to get the website done, at least the landing page, so I could try the affiliates out. But the other problem is that I don't know if HostGator has a agreement with other with web development companies, or if they sell your information, or what happened. But I've been getting nonstop phone calls from web development companies asking me if I needed help, and marketing companies asking if I needed help with Age of Jeremy. And so they're calling me maybe 4 or 5 times a day from different parts of the United States, and they're trying to sell me on these services, which has been really, really frustrating. So I don't know exactly what's going on, but that's what I've been dealing with this week. I'm trying to get the Age of Jeremy website up. And I'm still going to try to go through with HostGator, because I'm definitely going to give them a chance. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward what a hosting site does, but I'll take a look at it. I'll make sure everything works. I'm going to build the site out through through WordPress. And then I'm going to try to go back in with Dreamweaver and do the HTML and CSS for the website, and then maybe like swap them out. I don't know. And the reason why I wanted to really take a long time to build the Age of Radio and Age of Jeremy website, but spending a lot of time with John Vasquez, one of the things that John Vasquez does really, really well that I don't is he activates on stuff. So there's this thing called Strength Finders, and one of his top strengths is activating. And that's why he's been so successful with JV Impacts, is because he does, and he finds the resources as they happen. So I kind of wanted to try that approach, especially since I'm going to build this into one of the greatest media news companies in the world, Age of Radio. And so I kind of just wanted to get started and do it. And I think that that's why I got the podcast going so quickly. And that's also the reason why I got the Facebook page up so quick. I got the Age of Radio Heads group page up so quick, because I really just want to start it activating. And I knew that the resources would come, because that's how I've envisioned that this is going to be the greatest media news company in the world. And that's the reason why I just kind of just started. And I'll find the resources they come. I'll learn as I go along. And that's the reason why I have this podcast, so I can share that with everybody and kind of talk stuff out through my head. But that was the debacle that I had with HostGator this week. So it kind of set me back a little bit, but I'm going to really focus on getting the ageofjeremy.com website up this following week, so then I can test out the Amazon affiliates. And then the other thing that I came across that I'm going to start looking into this week is a company called Midroll, which is a way for Age of Radio to partner with a media an ad agency to find ads specifically for podcasts. And I think it's owned by Scripps Company, which is a really like a advertising conglomerate. But the app looks really, really amazing. Looks like it's going to be something that we can use as we start to find ads. So I'm really looking forward to that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about with business development, which is also part of my like activating attitude, is that I reached out to a friend, Danielle, my wife, one of her friends. Her name's Andrea, and I reached out to Drea, and she knew about the podcast. Well, she found someone who's really trying to find a new way to a new medium for their comedy, and he had tried podcasts in the past, but he wanted, I guess, some help with it. And so we met the other night. He goes to Grand Canyon University here in Arizona. So I met with him on campus, and we went to Panda Express and we talked. His name's Isaac Bills, and he has a YouTube channel. If you just type in Isaac Bills Comedy, you can find his YouTube channel. He used to live in California. He came here to go back to school at Grand Canyon University, or to attend Grand Canyon University. Not 100% if it was to go back to school, but to go to Grand Canyon University. And he's a great kid. I think he's 21, and we sat and we talked for about an hour listening, and I got to hear all the things that he wanted to do, how he wanted to get into entertainment, how he does stand-up comedy, how he's always thinking of new content, so he shouldn't have a problem doing the podcast. And I told him that I'm going to help him. Now, I'm not doing it where he has to pay me right now. We're kind of going to do the like an advertisement split when we start doing the ads, and so I'm kind of excited for that. I'm kind of hashing out the details on all of that as we get going, because eventually we're going to have different packages that anybody can buy. And just a fantastic kid. I think he's got a bright future. He's very charismatic. He's a Christian. He's godly. I think he has the ability to put in the work effort. He's got a really, really special thing about him. And it's interesting because John's a Christian, and I know that I'm not a Christian in any way whatsoever. But it's one of the things that I do enjoy about being around Christians is I enjoy their faith, seeing how it impacts their life and the spiritual side of them. And then the other thing I like about Christians is they always have that thing where they're like, well, I think that this is a sign from God. I hear that, this is a sign from God. One of the things that Isaac told me, he's like, this opportunity came up. I really feel that it was a sign of God. And one of the things that I like about that is that it really helps give them a sense of destiny and purpose. And with that destiny and purpose, I feel that they're going to achieve more, because they feel that they have this reason of what they're supposed to be doing. They feel that this is the thing that they're supposed to be doing, that they're leading down the right path. And I enjoy being around people that have that mentality. And I'm not saying that that's just something for Christians. I'm convinced that I'm going to change the world. And I'm not a Christian. But I think that that's one of the things that I enjoy about being around Christians, is that sense of purpose and that feeling of purpose and being led in the right direction. So what we did with Isaac is he reached out to me today, and this is again, this is on Friday, 10/27. He reached out to me today, and he said, well, how do I get the MP3 for it to you? Because a lot of what me and John do is all virtual, mainly because I work full time and do the John Vasquez part-time and do the Age of Radio part-time. So I was able to create a SharePoint site. We do a lot of Microsoft products with JV Impacts and Age of Radio. And with the SharePoint side, I was able to create a way. It's a great product. It's you can create different site pages, and you can create different groups. And then he doesn't actually have to be part of the company to integrate into the group. It's called Group 3. I think it's Office 365 Group is what the group is called, but then you can create a SharePoint site. So I created a SharePoint site for Isaac Bills, and then I sent him the link that he joins it, and then through that, he can upload the MP3s to the docs. And this is the same thing we do with JV Impacts. So when he does his podcasting at the JV Impact studio, he uploads it to me. I get it here, and I edit it in my home studio. And then I get it up on our hosting site and make sure that it goes out. And so I'm going to do the same thing with Isaac. And this process is really what kind of helped give me the idea that we can create a podcast network with anybody, as long as they're willing to put in the work, do the content, and get it to me with the different packages that Age of Radio is going to offer. They can join the network for free. And then we do a revenue split. But they would get me the MP3. We would do the same kind of concept where we would create them a SharePoint site for their show. And then they would upload the MP3s. I would get them, make sure it's hosted, and then get it out. So I think it's really exciting to see the process come together with this new show that we're going to be working on. And we don't have a title for it yet, where he's going to come up with some of the content and see what we can do and get it to me. So I'm really excited about that. And then I had another meeting with another individual that I came across. I'm not going to name names of this individual yet, but with this individual, we were kind of talking, and I think we're going to try to start some sports podcasts, because one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of the with a lot of the podcast networks is they have different areas. So they'll have like their entertainment, they'll have their health and fitness, they'll have their sports, kind of just like a television network would, or a radio station network. So I'm really excited about that. But those are the things that I kind of want to talk to you about, where the business is going. The things that I'm going to be working on this next week, is I really want to kind of put together a plan for the Facebook group Radioheads. And then we're integrating some really cool stuff into the jvimpacts.com website, which I'm not going to talk about now, but it's going to be really, really cool when it's done. So we're going to start working on that. And then on November 2nd with JV Impacts, we have the Roids to Riches book release party. So that's going to be taking place here in Arizona. And if you go to JV Impacts _ on Instagram, you can go through the feed and you can find the flyer for it. And if you'd like, you can RSVP if you're here in Arizona. We'd love to have you. Roids to Riches is a fantastic book. It's a fantastic story about John, falling from grace, losing everything, and then rebuilding his life, and then creating JV Impacts. So it's really, really cool. I'm really excited for it. And if you're listening and you listen to the podcast and you're there, say hello, and that's going to be awesome. So I look forward to maybe seeing some of you there if you're in Arizona. If not, then I guess just keep listening to the podcast. But to move over to the next segment, kind of personal things that are going on with me. I don't really have a lot of personal stuff going on with me, because most of my life is with JV Impacts and Age of Radio and my day job. So I do a lot of work. But one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about, that I can kind of I need to get better at least going forward, is making sure that I don't sacrifice my health. And that's one of the biggest things. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I've been a type 1 diabetic since I was 27. I'm 34 now. I just turned 34 on October 21st. So happy belated birthday to me. And one of the things that I do is when I'm working on a project, I get obsessed with it and I focus on it. And so about 4 weeks ago, when I'm trying to figure out what I was doing with Age of Radio, kind of strategizing more of Age of Radio and really focusing on the JV Impacts website, I kind of stopped going to the gym. And it was about 4 weeks ago, and I can just feel a difference in my body not going to the gym every day. And what I would do is what I've done in the past, I'll just stop going to the gym. I'll stop eating right. I'll just focus on my one thing until it's done, and until it's where I want it. And then I'll start integrating like the healthy eating, the sleeping, the exercising back into my life. But one of the things that I really want to focus on for the rest of the year and then next year is not doing that. Really making, I guess it's a time management problem. And an obsession problem, where I'm still doing the things that I need to be doing to take care of myself, but then also focus on all of the amazing projects that I'm working on. So that's one of the other things that I'm going to be focusing on. That's really all that's really going on in my personal life. But I'm gonna try that. I did a bullet journal for a while, and I liked that. One of the problems that I don't with managing time, I like blocking out time. I think that works the best. And I block out time on Outlook, but I feel that when I have a bullet journal or I have a planner in front of me, I have, I guess, more of a sense to look at what I've blocked out. Cause like my phone's usually on mute. So I never receive notifications of when I'm supposed to be doing anything. And I feel that when I have it on paper, like with a bullet journal or with a planner, I get a lot more stuff done. So I'm going to try to integrate that system back into my time management and see if it'll help me make more time for exercise. Because I only need like 30, 45 minutes and I'm fine. But I just want to make sure that I'm having that to help with my diabetes. And then also, so I don't wear myself out so much when I go into these binges of working, 15, 20 hours a day. But that's everything that I have for the personal side of it. I really appreciate everybody. It's been interesting. Kind of to let you know where we're at on downloads. Downloads for last episode, we're at 88, which is really cool. I didn't think I'd even get like 10. So 88 downloads is pretty awesome. Hope we can keep growing. Make sure that you follow Age of Jeremy on Instagram, and that you follow Age of Radio on Facebook, and that you join the Age of Radio Heads Facebook group, which you can find through Age of Radio Facebook page. So make sure that you like the page. Make sure that you follow Age of Jeremy on Instagram, and we'll see you guys next time, or you guys will hear me talk next time. And if you're listening to this in the morning, have a good afternoon. If you're listening to this in the afternoon, have a good evening. And if you're listening to this in the evening, have a good night. And we will see you next time.